Now let's use a pivot table on a real world problem, something that's regrettably all too common, pay discrimination. Let's go to the payroll sheet. And as you can see here, this is supposedly a payroll list of employees working for this company called Acme. And you can see there it lists the names, the gender, how many years they've been working for us, what's the department, what department they're in, and what their salary is. Okay, we're pretending we're working in the human resources department. And actually, there's a serious problem here. Some of the women here are complaining that they're being paid less than the men. A all too common problem, and we just want to make sure that this is not the case, because if it is, we could be open to a lawsuit and bad publicity, and besides, it's just not good to do. So let's make sure we're okay here. We can use a pivot table to do that. All right, so we have the information here, and you can see we've got about 60 employees here, 55 employees, and we can use the pivot table very easily here. Now, to compare the males versus the females, we want to do what? We can add up these salaries, but that's not good. We want to get the average. So let's do it real simply. So again, we have a nice table. There's no blank rows, no blank columns, only one row of labels. So all we need to do is click any cell in the table here, and then go up to the Insert tab and click on Recommended Pivot Tables. And whoops, our table is too complicated for Excel to figure out what to do here. That happens, no problem. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We'll click on Cancel, and instead of using this button, we're going to click on this button, Pivot Table. So click on this, and that brings up this little dialog box here, and basically it's asking two things. Number one is the data selection okay? It puts little dancing ants around the data. It seems to be all right. And then the second question it asks is, where do you want to put this? Well, usually you want to put it on a new worksheet, so fine. All we need to do here is click on OK. So that creates a new sheet called Sheet 2. And on sheet 2, there's this little design here. This is going to be replaced by our pivot table. And over on the right side, we've got, again, our list of fields, in other words, columns, and then a bunch of boxes down here. And then all we need to do is move these into the appropriate boxes down here. Okay, now there is this filter box here, but just ignore that. We don't need to do that. That's more complicated. We just need to put information into these three boxes: rows, columns, and values. So let's check the average salary for gender. So I'm going to grab gender here, put it into the rows box, and you can see on the left side, there we go. We have F and M for male and female. Let me zoom in so you see it better. There we go. And then for values, let's put in the salary. I'm going to grab salary and drag it and put it into the values box. And there we go. We've got the sum of the salary for each of the two people. Well, that, of course, depends on how many people, how many individuals we have in each group. So let's change that from sum to average. I'm going to right-click one of these numbers, go down to Summarize Values By, and change it to average. Yeah, that's much better. So the number format looks pretty weird. Let's change that. We're going to right-click on one of the numbers, and we'll go to number format here, number format, and just use a number format here. We'll get rid of the decimal places, but we will use the commas, and click OK. Much better. You can see, whoops, we do have a problem here, okay? 44,000 versus 47,000. About a $3,000 difference. Less than 10%, but could be a problem. Now, we can never get it exactly right, but that's a pretty big difference here. Let's analyze this a little bit more. I'm going to click back in the table, which brings up my field list on the right. And let's analyze this a little bit more. I'm going to grab department and put department over here in the columns box. And now I've sliced the data another way, and I can see within each department. And it turns out in the sales department, the females are actually making more than the males. In the production department, it's neck and neck. A very, very, very small difference there. But in the maintenance department, look at this. Look at the difference there, 36,000 to 45,000. Wow, that's a lot. Interesting. Now, to analyze this a little bit more, we want to change the format here. This is a horizontal table. Let's change it into a vertical table. In other words, we're going to pivot it. So all we need to do, we're going to grab department here. Grab department, move it down here into the bottom of the rows box. Grab gender, move it into the columns box. And here we've done. We've just pivoted the table. I love to do that. And now it's more in a vertical format, which is good. Now, if we talk to the person in charge of the maintenance department, okay, what is the rationale they'll probably come up with? Well, they'll probably tell us, say, the reason the men are making more money is because they've been here longer. Well, is that true? Let's check the data. In fact, we have the data right here. If we grab years and put it down here under department, you can see there, we can see on a year-to-year basis if there's any difference between the males and the females. Well, in terms of the new people here who've been listed here less than a year, we have a woman here, 28,000, and a man, 30,000. Well, that's a difference, okay? No comparison here. In the 4-year group, we've got, well, the women are actually making more than the men. In the 5-year group, it's pretty neck and neck. And then we have someone here at 8 years. Well, there's no comparison in the female group. So, yeah, it's pretty good. We do have we have difference here for the new people here. Let's fix that. Let's see who's responsible for this 28,000. A real quick way of doing this is this. This is a nice trick here. If I double click on that 28,000, okay, just put the mouse pointer there and double click it. Watch what that. It creates a new sheet here, a new sheet. And it lists all the people involved there. Well, it's just one person, Cindy here, who's making 28,000. Well, let's give her a raise, bring her up a little bit. Okay, now we can't do it here. This is just a list of the data. It's not going to be, it's not meaningful. It's not going to be included anywhere. So let's delete this. We'll go down here, right click on sheet 3 and do delete. You sure? Yes, we're sure. Okay, but we'll go into our data. We'll go back into the payroll tab. Okay, payroll tab. Here's our data. Here's Cindy right here, and she's making 28,000. Let's give her a raise. Let's raise it up to 30. Okay, so we'll just click there, type 30000, and hit the enter key. There we go. Now she's no. And giving someone a raise in real life is not that easy, but here it is, and let's take advantage of that. Okay, we made the change. Let's see if it changed in our pivot table. Click on sheet 2. No, there's no change there. Of course, we have to do what? We have to refresh it. So we can just right click any of the numbers, go to refresh. And now we got 30 and 30 there, which is much better. But if we look at the group as a whole, the department as a whole, you see it's 30, now it's 37,000 versus 45,000. It's narrowed a little bit, but we have these people here in the two groups, 2-year group and the 8-year group, which are, there's no comparison for the female group. So it weights it pretty heavily in the male version to the males there, but if you look at it year to year, it is pretty fair. It is pretty fair. Good. Okay, so that's really good. Let's put our data into a form that we can show people. Let's get rid of. Let's make it a little simple. We're going to grab years and take it out, and let's create another chart. Okay, we'll click inside here. We'll go into our pivot table analyze tab. We'll click on the pivot chart button right there. That brings up, I'll do a nice little cluster column thing. Click OK. All right, we'll move it down below our table. And let's get rid of these buttons here. We'll go to the pivot chart analyze tab again and click on the field button there, which gets rid of those buttons much easier. There we go. And you can see now graphically, yeah, there is a pretty big difference here. Okay, the other ones are pretty similar, but there is a sizable difference here. Okay, good. Let's save our work. Let's go up here and click on the Save button up in the Quick Access toolbar. So basically what we did is we created a blank pivot table. Just click on the Insert tab and click on the Pivot Table button in the left, and then click OK to accept the choices of the data. And then we just drag gender to rows, drag salary to values. We fixed the format, number format. And then we pivoted the table by dragging department into columns and gender into the rows box, and then we drag department into columns, then we drag department from columns into rows and gender from rows to columns, and then we create a nice little chart. In our next video, we're going to learn a real nice technique which can save us a lot of time and headaches by instead of typing in data into a cell, we can just click it. So much easier.